Hello, Hamburg. And let's ask that question right off. I'm talking about 3D printing. Who here has heard of 3D printing before? By show of hands, fantastic. That's 90%. And of those numbers, how many of you have actually seen or interacted with a 3D printer, actually used one? Okay, so it's about cut in half from there. So, and let me just reaffirm that if you'd like to tweet any of this, please grab me on Twitter at DFF Flanders. But right onto the topic, the reason why I'm passionate about 3D printing is because I work in universities and we have this group called PIF3D, which stands for Pay It Forward 3D Printing. And what we do is we're a group that just enjoys this stuff. We'll come to your university, we'll put on a 24-hour party, and we will give you the skills to be able to build one of these 3D printers. And the best part is this printer, once you've made it, it can print its own parts and build another one, so it can have children, if you will. So I think one of the really exciting things, as I said, is this goes back to childhood love of just enjoying things and having an idea and using your imagination to just build something out of nothing. And that's what excites me about 3D printing on a personal and core level. But today, what I'm really going to talk about is the larger idea of what 3D printing can achieve for us on a grand scale. So here's the hypothesis. Humans can turn the web off. They can't turn reality off, which makes it significant. We'll always like real objects more than virtual ones. So my simple example is I'm willing to stand up here today and give you my best ideas for free, for nothing. However, if you want my phone in my pocket, I'm probably going to expect a little bit of a cash reimbursement for that. 3D printing will change everything, and more to the point, because it's physical reality, I think it's especially going to change the way we think about money and also all the opportunities for making money from these objects. Okay, so why do I think it's a big technology? So a graph up here, percentage of change on the vertical, and then years, date here on the horizontal. And as you can see, these significant technologies all had this momentum where actually at some point they take off from innovation and they start to significantly change who and what we do. Onto obviously one of the big ones here, and it's just begun. Again, this is number of servers on the vertical, and this is years along the horizontal. And again, right in about 98, boom, we see this massive shift in the number of servers across the planet. And of course, we're just on the journey. We haven't even begun to realize how much the internet's going to affect and change us. So 3D printing, a brief history. How does it fit into this model? Well, it's older than you think. 1980 was the first rapid prototyping 3D printer. It was a commercial printer, cost $30,000 and above. In fact, they're much more expensive. That's just the cheapest one. In 2007, a landmark, a red letter date occurred where this group, under the RepRap, self-replicating printer, actually created a desktop printer. So unlike the commercial large ones, this will sit on your desk and it'll print objects of about a foot by a foot by a foot. And of course, the significant bit is the fact that it actually can print itself, which is what we're doing. And then MakerBot is a company that now sells these printers. So if you don't want to make it yourself, you can just buy one outright. We can build one for around 300 euros, 300 to 500 euros, depending on what parts. MakerBot sells them for around 1,000 or so, but check their website, please. And then finally, the real question I'm asking here is, does 3D printing fit into the bigger thing? Well, since that 2007, this is the map where people have just registered to say that we're actually building printers and willing to help you build printers. So it's starting to take off, and that's kind of where this graph goes. So here's where we are, right? And the question is are we going to see that big sweep? And that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. It's really the big question of how is this going to change? I don't want to talk about the technology. I want to talk to you about, is there ideas here that you could build into all of your creativity and all the things you're doing? And I think there's a possibility of that. So there's four types of things, four types of change that I think these printers can affect. And I'm going to go through each one of these and give examples of each one. And in fact, all of the pictures following here, all of them are 3D printed. These are not photoshopped. These are real 3D printed objects that have been printed either by desktop or commercial 3D printers. First one, okay, this is kind of the boring stuff. Change the everyday things, right? So this is what I'd call the made in China stuff. So this is my belt buckle. These are the things you find in your office that you've got an entire cabinet full of things that you've overstocked and probably won't use and it'll probably get thrown away someday. So I think that's going to change the way we think about those things. I think it's also going to change the way we think about what is luxurious. So there's a great company called iMaterialize that's starting to do lamps. And I was in Hamburg actually this weekend enjoying shopping around with my wife. And we were looking at lamps and saying, wow, these are brilliant. And then the cost of them, I was just, they're incredibly expensive. Well, 3D printing gives you the capability to do this at a much lower cost than you would imagine, with the same quality, if not even more bespoke customization that you can do inside of these things. This is one of my favorite examples. It's called the Chandelier of the Damned. As the beautiful chandelier here is, you can imagine what that would have cost to carve, say, and what the cost would be. Well, that can be printed. And even more powerful, the design for that can be re-uploaded digitally so that you could remaster it. So instead of doing a Rodin's Damned, you could do Rodin's Paradiso, right? So you could change the chandelier to be a bit more positive, perhaps. Change how we buy, and this is important. So these objects are things that we do spend significant amounts of money on, and you will notice that, again, these are all 3D printed objects. That's right. They've printed a motorcycle. In fact, this motorcycle was shown at a TED conference, and they've even gone so far as to build the parts for this low-level energy consumption car, as well as an airplane. Now, all of that stuff, as amazing as it is, and indeed, I mean, seeing a running motorcycle that was printed is incredible, but the trouble is it's just copying things. It's not rethinking about what the technology can do for us and how it can change. So that's what I'm going to talk about next, is what are the objects we really care about and start to want to rethink how we design and how we use them. So what do we enjoy? Well, one of the significant bits is fashion, right? It changes our core self-interest in what we think of ourselves and how it works. And again, what's great about fashion is that being able to customize things, that's exactly what a 3D printer can do. It can give you infinite level of customization. Change the way we have fun, right? So this is one of my personal favorites, the sports equipment side. So on the left there with the surfboard, that's a skeleton that you can print. And so my friend, who's half the weight of me who surfs, can give me that design. I can scale up that design to fit more of my body weight and be able to actually print a surfboard for my usage. The same with the football boots. So the football boots, imagine the industry and the amount of money that's going to be made by people who want custom-made football boots to their foot, not only to fit, but also to be able to kick the ball in very specific ways. Change the way we experience, right? So this is one of my favorites. Many of you probably saw this article in The Economist about printing a Stradivarius. And yes, indeed, they're starting to work with that. But again, the question is moving beyond just copying. So at MIT, they've started to do this flute, and you can reprint the different parts of it so that you can have bigger fingers or smaller fingers, depending on what size instruments you need. And then more importantly, reimagining what we can completely do with instruments. What would a 7-horn trumpet look like, and being able to use and play that. And there's real exciting potential for creativity in art here. Okay, so I've talked about the things that we like, but now we need to talk about the necessary things. These are the things that make us survive and enable us to exist, right? And so let's think about food. And so this is quite exciting. They've adapted the desktop printer to be able to push out ice in a freezer so that you can print ice sculptures. Maybe not a massive significant things in terms of survival, but it's starting to push that bounds and those limits for what we can achieve. Another one here, this is using a syringe type method so that you can do layer on layer upon cake. So you can actually build up multiple cookie designs or something like that. Another one here, this is using multiple print heads to do multiple food types, so you can imagine your appetizer or your canopy being delivered to you from a 3D printer, just being able to print that up. Right, so buildings. These are important, right? Can we actually imagine a 3D printer printing a building? Well, someone's already done it. In Italy, they are experimenting with printing cement. So this is on a much larger design, and they plan to scale this up even further to make this next step to actually be even a larger size, the size of say, a house or so on. All right, so this is one of the most exciting ones, I think, of all. There's already several universities in the States who are actually starting to be able to graft skin cells from you, cultivate those skin cells, put them in a syringe-type mechanism, be able to put your hand down or other body part, lay the printer over the top, and actually print a new layer of skin on you. This is actually happening. And even more significant than that, and this is where I think this can really change lives, full stop, is the fact that Wakefield Forest has already demonstrated the ability to actually cultivate your liver cells, cultivate those, and then print you a new liver. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't stop signing your organ donor cards. This technology is not fully capable yet, but it's well on its way, and it's starting to get there. Okay, so finally, the big one. And the next set of these is actually asking the bigger question. So it's a bit speculative, but it's the question of, does 3D printing become a significant technology that changes the century? Is it going to do that big up curve in the way we do things? So here's a simple example, right? Let's think about this in a more holistic way. Imagine shoes, right? Kids growing up 5 years of age, every mother can tell you how quickly they grow out of those shoes. Well, there's no reason why those shoes can't be shredded down as a base plastic that's organic. You take a milk bottle from your refrigerator and you shred that along with the other plastic. You scale up your design 0.01% to be the next size foot, and you reprint the shoe. Imagine the cost savings from shipping all of those shoes, the amount of energy you've saved wasted, and the amount of time in having to go shoe shopping and all the rest with your kids. This could start to fundamentally change the way we do things. With the good comes the bad. I can print this up tomorrow. I can print up a gun out of plastic that would not be detected by most metal detectors in airports. Doesn't mean I can get the bullets through, but there is the capability of being able to sneak that through. It's going to change the way we think about safety. Laws are going to have to be rethought. There's going to be new ways of thinking about these things. Now, finally, I want to suggest to you a bit larger of an idea. And so this is me just trying to be creative, because I do think there's new businesses to be had, and especially when you combine it with something like the web. So let's pretend let's not pretend. We know that the earthquake happened in Japan, and obviously we want to help them. Well, you can imagine by using another significant technology like the web, where you could set up a site where the Japanese could come along and request the items that they need because they've lost in the earthquake. Enough printers around the country could actually print those things, and then we'd be able to send those objects over to them to help them in their time of crises. How much more significant would that be than sending money? Knowing that you're printing an object and giving it to somebody else, how is that going to change the way you see helping out other countries? Most importantly, this is one we're quite excited about. We're trying to stage a little group to go down to Egypt and get these printers into the hands of people who are just going to be able to use these things. And that's what becomes really exciting. If we get these 3D printers in the hands of people who need these things and can print the objects they need, we're going to be able to change their fundamental economy in the way they're doing things. So I hope I've inspired you today. I hope you have some ideas, and I would love it if you'd come up to me and share those ideas with me. And more importantly, if you'd like to put on a 3D print party and have some of me and my developer friends come and show you how to build your own printer so you could get started, there are my contact details. So thank you all very much. Cheers.